Hello, Yaara.
Hello, Gidon.
Hello. I've known you for quite a while now, and you have an interesting personal story to tell us about your journey with GNM. So how would you like to start your story for us?
Yeah, so before I start my story, I want to say how much I'm excited and very happy to be here in such an event, which is like a kind of dream come true, because I really wanted the GNM to get more global and more spread out to the world. And I truly admire Dr. Hammer's work, and I think it's a great opportunity to celebrate his birthday date and the global GNM organization. So I'm very glad to be here for a start.
Yes, we can indeed thank Dr. Vargas for this and Dr. Hammer, GNM, yes.
Right. This was a surprise, a very good surprise.
Okay, so I know you for quite a while, as I said, but could you tell us or tell the listeners about yourself, about your background, or so that the audience will get to know you better?
Just the facts for a start. My first degree is industrial engineering, and I worked 25 years or so in the high-tech industry and organizations, teaching organizations how to work with kind of the pyramid upside down in an agile mode, more flexible, less management, more power to the people to make decisions and get the work done in teams. And this is my first profession. I was a co-CEO of a consulting company in Israel, for that matter, a very successful one, and also wrote a book about it, how to run big organization more freely, self-managed, self-organized. Another degree is that about 15 years ago, I was studying Chinese medicine, and I had a clinic for throughout the years sometimes, and I treated people. And from the beginning, I'm very scientific and love facts and science, but I'm also very spiritual and love to help people. And so I did that in parallel for some years. And in the last couple of years, I studied also the German New Medicine and also spiritual psychology. And I have my clinic escorting people in their lives and healing journeys. And I do a lot of other stuff in what I call the new world that is going to show up, I hope soon. But this is for another story. So this is my background. And today I run and lead together with you and Idan Sar and Amnon and others, the GNM Israel Center. And we spread this information and knowledge throughout Israel, and now part of doing it throughout the world.
Fascinating. It's a disclosure is, of course, due here that Yaara is my managing figure in this organization of ours. Yaara, tell the viewer, please, when did you get to know GNM? When did you meet it and why? What was happening?
Yeah, so this is kind of new, like about 4.5 years ago. The first thing that happened is that I decided to change my life and get divorced. We decided it together. It was kind of a good process, but it's always challenging to spread the family and get separated. So I did that and left home. And 4 months later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, with milk ducts breast cancer. I had one tumor on the right breast and two smaller findings on the left breast, which means that I was in a healing process. The two tumors on the left side, after a short while, was disappeared. So this was not, this didn't matter anymore. So I was in focus on the right breast tumor. And what happened is that as soon as they diagnosed it, I had a feeling. It was a feeling, but it was more like in knowing that I was going to do it to heal myself differently. I think I got this understanding or a power or maybe courage to think that way, because I felt like it's a great opportunity for me to do something that is so great, so big. It was like, wow, my time has come to do my my big thing in the world. This was the feeling. What?
It was time to do your journey in the world.
Yes.
I'd like to direct you to help the viewer to understand. You're a right-handed person, aren't you?
Right. I'm a right-handed person.
And you had your tumor in your left breast, in your right breast.
In my right breast. This was the major one. Yes.
Can you tell us what you think the conflict was?
Yes, it was obviously a separation conflict from a partner, and I had two kind of conflicts like that. First, it was my home, my husband, which it's not his fault, of course, right? It was a separation conflict of both of us, but I felt it. And I dealt with it for a few years until I got to the decision to leave the house. And the other one was also in the work area, which I had a partnership running the consulting group, and I didn't felt it was the right thing for me to do anymore. And I didn't know how to get my way out of there. I was thinking about it, but I didn't want to do it anymore. So there were several conflicts of separation from someone next to me, a partner that I wanted to change. And so I knew I was going to do it differently. And I think I got this, courage or the way to think this way, due to the fact that in my early years, I was a swimmer and I was the champion of Israel. And in order to be a champion in any sports or to win things, you have to have two things. One is to not be afraid of, let's say, failures or challenges, So I was very practiced with that. So I said to myself, wow, this is another challenge and I'm great with challenges. I'm very practiced, so I can manage also this one. And the other thing is that, you have to have, in order to win a competition and to stay there for a long time, you have to have very strong mind. Okay, like you imagine how you're going to win the situation, how you're going to manage yourself during the competition. And I was very good at it. So for many years, I practiced it when I was very young. So it was kind of part of my DNA to win challenges. Okay, this was my DNA. So I didn't feel like it was like I needed the courage. It was kind of obvious to me that I'm going to do it differently. But the thing is that I didn't know how. So I said to myself, well, I don't know how, let's see what is going to happen. And I will start searching. So what happened is that after 2 weeks or so, a very good friend of mine sent me a link to an article about the breast cancer according to the German New Medicine. And I was reading it and I was like, whoa, did someone write a book about me? It was like so obvious, you know, right-handed.
It was your life at the time.
What?
It was your life at the time.
Yeah, it was exactly my life at the time. So I was I identified myself in this article very clearly. So Idan, our colleague, wrote this article, and I called him and I said, well, you wrote in words what each cell of my body knows. So I want to meet you. And this is how it started. I met Idan, and I studied the entire knowledge of the GNM from him at that time, like 4 years ago. And I wanted to start to heal myself first. And it was so exciting to me and so new and so amazing that I wanted to do something about with it afterwards, which, you know, which led me to where I'm here now with you and leading the Israeli center of the GNM. So this is how the story actually began.
Amazing. Okay, so tell us some more, or shed some light on the action you took, the way you chose to approach your healing process. What did you do? What did you do in order to heal, actually? And how?
Yes.
You could also refer to how do you know that you are healed?
Yes. So if we go a little backwards, then the article that I read was saying that I'm actually in the healing process from a separation conflict from a partner. So, and I felt that my decision was the right one for me, and that the fact that I left home and started a new life was actually right for me back then. And I said, well, this sounds like I'm in a healing process. So I wanted to understand it better, of course. But it was so obvious, the article, that I felt like I felt very confident, and it was very logical to me what was written there. So I felt very confident about trusting this process and try it at least before doing anything else, and not objecting it from the beginning. So this is one thing. This is how I understood that I'm in the healing process. And well, people always like to know what I did for my healing. Yes, practical actions and not only a high-level story. So I remember that back then I was first I was reading, I was very interested in it. So I started reading a lot of books about spirituality and how the world works between, I got to know that we are only 1% approximately of matter and 99% of energy, let's say, and that the real power comes from our consciousness and not from our body, from the matter. So I started teaching myself with books and courses and looking at the internet to understand this knowledge better. This is one thing I did. Then at the same time, I started to learn spiritual psychology. And well, at least in Israel, the situation when you learn in this school that I was going to, it's not only, they don't only give you tools of what to do and how to do technical tools, it's also that, but it's more about talking and sharing your feeling, your story, And it's like one big treatment for a year, sharing my story, my conflicts, my feelings with other people that actually kind of practicing coaching on me to study how to coach according to spiritual psychology. And the mantra, the great mantra of spiritual psychology is that the outer reality, if we call it, comes from the inner state and nothing else. So I understood that I had to go in. I cannot go outside and blame my husband or anybody else out there that this thing happened to me. It's only about myself, and to get to know myself better, to understand why I have conflict with separation. And slowly I realized, for example, that I was very, what I realized about myself, for example, is that I was always wanting to satisfy others before I satisfy my own needs. I was very much for others, but very less for myself. So I had to work about upside down, making it upside down, yeah, or the other way around. And another thing I realized is that I thought I needed someone out there in order to continue life. I needed a partner. I couldn't do it alone. I was dependent. I felt like I was dependent on others to be happy, to be successful. So I wanted to change that too, so I can get confidence, more confidence about myself, my own way, which I also realized was kind of very different from others sometimes, but I didn't let myself the freedom to be myself, to be there. So the first thing I realized is that I want to really understand myself, to know myself better, and to start be exactly who I am, no matter what the people outside me say. So I started working on this path. I can give some examples, practical examples of how I, for example, managed to leave the house. Okay, for example, I had a very big challenge because we both wanted to stay in the house we lived in for more than 10 years, and I knew that I'm not a fighting person. I'm not for fights, and I never been. So I knew I'm not going to fight for it. I'm not this kind of person. So, but I really wanted to stay home, and I was kind of attached to it. And I said to myself, well, I'm not going to win this situation. I'm going to let my husband stay in the house due to many other reasons, which were logical at that time. And I thought he deserved it. It was for him. And but I didn't know. I asked myself, well, how can I go along with it? And I asked myself, well, why am I attached to matter, to four walls, to a house? Why is it so difficult to me to leave the house? So back then I was reading one of Tony Robbins' books, and that evening, I think, or a day before, I was reading about a tool that he calls what's good about it. No matter what happens to you, ask yourself, what's good about it? So I decided to use the tool and see how it works, just try anything that could help me. So I went to sleep with the thought of what's good in it, what's good about leaving the house. And from moment to moment, I realized that leaving the house, I can pick another house that is more suitable to me, and maybe it's more big, so I have more space for me and the children, and I can make it as beautiful as I want it to be, and it's only my decisions, and buy new stuff that I wanted. And I also understood that if I go for another place nearby, another area to live in, then my children will have more friends, better schools, more activities with more children, which was in the area I lived in, it was a little bit missing. So suddenly, after, I don't know, maybe an hour of thinking, I was like, whoa, this future is so pink. I hope my partner will not change his mind, because the only thing I want is to go forward and leave the house. So I went to sleep and woke up the morning with excitement instead of my poor feeling at the earlier night. So one tool is what's good about it. Every person, it's a very easy tool, and every person can find the good things about every situation that comes.
Great. It's very interesting to see the process, but those were mental process, actually, what you did. Did you do anything that is practical, that is in the matter, not in the spirit?
Yes, so at the beginning, I went for a little bit Chinese medicine, few appointments. I didn't change my nutrition, because I always was in the right place for me. I was not eating junk anyway. So I said to myself, this is not the way. I didn't feel like I had to let go of any sugar or give up some kinds of foods. I felt this was, I was okay in that area. And I went for massages, reflexology, few treatments like that, but
it wasn't the core of your treatment, as I understand.
No,
treatments. You had good feeling from those treatments.
Yes. It's more than that. After doing some of it, and also the consciousness process, the mental process, I really understood. I felt that the mental process is much more helpful and right for me. And not going out for treatment and other people thinking and advising me. I wanted to be my own advisor, and I felt this was the right way for me to look inside and see within myself, by myself, which I'm used to do. I like to do processes on my own and go through experiences and practice things on a daily basis on my own.
I'm very interested in something that we meet in our work on actually daily basis. You were diagnosed by medical medicine, by academic medicine. You're diagnosed with cancer. So when most people are getting very harsh and even abusive diagnosis, which as I see, didn't touch you really hard. But what was the reaction of your doctors? Or did you do anything with regular medicine? Any treatment also? And if you didn't, what was the reaction that you have received from your physicians?
Okay, this is a good question and interesting to tell, as you know. So the doctors told me that I had breast cancer, and I told them that I want to start with a natural process and not going straight forward to what they suggested, chemotherapy or hormones. to shrink the tumor and then operation to take it out. And I felt like, well, I don't feel comfortable about it. And I want to try something else and see how it goes. And the reaction was that the doctor told me, well, I've seen some, not many, but some girls like you, and they ended up with tumors all around and even died from it. So I went to a second opinion for a known professor in Israel, and he actually said to me that if he didn't want to escort me in a natural process, and he said, if you're going to live in 3 months from now, then come back and we can tell the story and so on. So I understood he gave me around 3 months to live, you know, and I was like, I kind of felt angry about it a little bit. This was not very angry, but you know, an anger and the thought of, well, you don't know me. This is me here, and I'm so alive. So I told him, well, I'm different. You never met me yet, and I'm not in the statistics of any statistics. And I'm going to come back in few months alive, and we are going to tell the story, you know. So to make the story, just to make the story, the finish of the story on the side is that after 1 year, I went back to him and told him, well, this is what you said. Remember, I showed him the paper that he wrote about, and I told him, well, let's write the article, you know. I succeeded. And of course, he said, he was very surprised, and he said, no, I'm not going to write an article, which I kind of, I was prepared for it, of course, yeah, but I had the feeling that I want to sit there and look him in the eye and tell him that I am alive. And because, you know, the doctors sometimes tell you how much time you live to be alive, you know, so people, and it's very scary for most of the people. And also, you know, if someone tells you that you are going to live only, I don't know, 3 months more, 1 year more, then if you're very afraid and you believe it, then you might get to the maximum of 3 years of living or the 1 year of living for and this is very dangerous in my mind. I mean, even if the statistics say this is going to happen, this is what usually happens or mostly happen, you don't have to tell people. You have to encourage people. You have to to give them hope in the process, because as we said before, the mental and the beliefs, the mental process and the beliefs of a person is much stronger and impact the biology and physiology of that person much more than what happens in the body. So I felt angry about it. I was like, why are you speaking to me like that, you know? But lucky me, I had the tools to overcome it and not get afraid. Now I want to.
Afraid at all?
Hmm?
So how did you feel when he told you that? Did you fear a bit? Was it just passing by you and you knew I'm not that one? And
fear was not there. I will in a moment explain when I had fears and what I did with them and other tools I used. But when the doctors told me that, I wasn't fearing, I was angry for other people, you know, for the universe. I don't know, for how can people speak like that when they have the power to give you hope or to break you, you know? So I was more angry. I was not afraid. And it drove me more into the place that I wanted to show them, to come back and show them that it can be done. So for me, it was a kick in the ass forward, you know, for the journey, for the good journey.
Yes, now you
but-
were in a competition. And
Yes.
This is a place you feel quite well.
Yeah, I know how to win challenges. This is I'm good at it.
Yeah, I call this approach of regular medicine, I call it abusive diagnosis. It's a diagnosis that actually abuse your mind in a way that you can hardly overcome, and most people do not. So lucky you that you're so strong.
Yeah, I was, as I said,
adamant about your process, your own process.
Yeah, so I want to give two more nice examples of tools or situations. One is about feelings. How to be, the tool is to be presence with a feeling that you have. For me, it was loneliness, for example, and not trying to escape from it and see what happens. This is the tool, okay? Because I cannot know or tell what will happen for a person if he use the tool, but I can know that something great, big is going to happen. So what happened to me is that, I left the house and I was living in another house, and the children, half of the week they come and half of the week I'm alone. And at the beginning, I remember one day I was sitting alone at my house, and I felt terrible about it. I was like, wow, I'm so lonely. What can I do? And the first thing that came to my mind is to call my friend, to go meet someone, to talk to people, to go out, to not be alone. And I caught myself and said to myself, well, don't run from it, okay? Don't run from the feeling. Just try. Of course, I learned this tool in the spiritual psychology, and I read about it in the books, so I said, okay, let's try it. Well, and I said to myself, stay in the situation, be lonely. And I spoke to myself and said, well, Yaara, loneliness, Yaara, shake hands, let's meet. This is the feeling that is called feeling lonely. And I just stay there. And I think after maybe 30 seconds, even less, I suddenly looked around and said, what do you mean lonely? I was dreaming about being alone and that I could read the book I want without anybody interrupting, or I can watch a movie on TV, or I can go for a walk around with nothing on my shoulders. And suddenly I'm sitting here inside my great dream and wishes, and I feel lonely? No. So after 30 seconds, I saw a pink picture again, So I remember I took a book and I started reading or watched a movie, something like that. And I was like, wow, this is so much fun. So it's a great tool to get to know the feelings and to see how it affects your body, what you feel, where, So I did that with in other opportunities, of course. So this is another tool, a very good one. Another thing is that you asked about the fear, and I wanted to say that I had several times that I was alone at the house. It was night, like, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm waking up and I had kind of itching and aching around the breast and the shoulder, and I was like, the first thought that came into my mind was like, oh no, what did I do? Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe it's the wrong direction. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm mistaken to go this path. And I immediately decided to change my thinking about it and say, no, you learned in the German new medicine that this is, remind yourself, this is the healing process. And sometimes you can have fever, you can have pain, which was very little, but I had the small pain, and maybe swallowing in around the place, So I had all that, and I said to myself, well,
yeah.
swelling, sorry, yes, right. So I had all that, and I remind myself that I read it in this article, you know, so I replaced my thoughts to thank you for knowing how to heal me. Thank you, God, the universe, the germs that come to my help, whoever it is that is participating. I thank you. This is a good process. Please keep going and keep helping me. And
So
I was relaxed only by thinking this way, you know.
So you actually took the symptom and the pain and the itching and whatever and the warmth, and you made an advantage out of it. You saw that it is in your advantage.
Yes.
That was the process you did?
Yes, and you know, it's not that I did it because I'm very brave or so, but because let's say I had two books. One saying this should be scary and I can die from it and so on. And the other one says you're in a healing process and everything is going to be okay, and this and this and this is going to happen to you, and it happened. So I just chose this book, you know.
What made you choose the GNM book over the other book that is much more prevalent and popular? Why did you choose it?
I think I chose the GNM book, so-called, because it was more logical to me. It had answers to the process that I'm going through, real answers, not thoughts, statistics, real answers about the process that I was living in. It was kind of about me. So I said, this is much more convincing. Yeah. This was much more convincing, and I decided to go with it.
So, well, that's interesting, because this is my thought about the difference between the approaches, the medical, so-called medical approaches, is that GNM is the logic of life, and regular medicine has nothing to show for it, yet it prevails much better. But we know now that it's quite different tools used in both. And yes,
right. And we can say, I can say now that I also see it in my clinic. Every person that comes and we find the conflict and tell the story fits in by 100% of the people I meet. 100% correction in the clinic, which is amazing. Nothing like that in any area, you know?
That's amazing.
So it's really amazing, and there's a kind of an logical answer for every symptom and the reason for it, you know. So
I think we can brag or talk about GNM much more than the time we have, and like to advance a bit and ask you to share more, or to tell us some more about the process of healing that you went through. What was happening after you have decided, and after you knew GNM, and after you had these experiences of talking to yourself about the symptoms that you felt and calming yourself, and how was the healing process going for you?
Yes, so after 1 year, I got the tumor got shrinked in third by third, and then it stayed there. And there was a point, a time after a few months or so, that I decided that I was doing ultrasound every few months. And after a few times like that, I said to myself, well, this is not changing, not growing, not shrinking, so it cannot even be called cancer, because cancer should grow, should do something, you know. So it's kind of like, I felt it was like a scar or something, you know, that is out there, but it's not doing, is in there, but it's not doing anything. And I felt great about my life, my new profession that I chose, my new way, my new way of living, you know, my new house. So I said, I decided that I am healed for myself and to go on with my life. But I remembered that the book also said something about the healing crisis.
Okay, tell us about the healing crisis.
Yeah, and I was like kind of ask myself, well, is this going to show up or not? When, how? And there was one day that I felt like it was a feeling like I'm going to faint. Like my whole body was taking me down. I had no power, and I was like very tired and very, very low with my spirit. And I said to myself, well, what's happening to me? This is not me. Why do I feel like that? And then I remembered the healing crisis, and I said, well, maybe this is it. It's coming, you know, maybe I'll faint and go through it. And I remember that it was Friday, and I had to go to the study of the spiritual psychology. And I told my teacher and the other students, well, I'm not feeling very well today. And if I'm going to faint, then don't worry. Just lie me down, take my legs up, put some ice on my head, like Dr. Hammer says. And they knew my process, you know, because I was sharing it. So, and don't call an ambulance, don't get panic, everything is going to be okay. So they said, okay, and nothing happened during this morning, you know, Friday morning and noon. And then at the evening, I was going back home, and was with my new partner back then. And I forgot to tell him about it. And I stood up to make coffee or something, you know, and then the next moment I see myself on the floor in his hand, and he's looking at me and like, Yaara, are you okay? Everything is okay, you know, like very scared about what happened. And I realized I'm on the floor. I fainted, you know. So I told him, I'm okay, a little confused, but take me to bed to rest a little. And there were some stairs to go up to the bedroom. So I don't remember this, but he said that I was fainting 2 more times, and also shaking epileptically, you know, a little bit. And then he lay me down on the bed. And I think after like half an hour, I came back to myself, and everything came back to normal. I felt energetic again, and I felt happy, really happy. I felt like it was a very interesting process, not scary. I was not in control, you know. I lost my conscious for the several moments there. So I didn't know really what was happening, but I knew the whole process. And I felt happy about it. I said to myself and to him, wow, it was like by the book, as we call it, you know. So it was smooth, and I said, wow, this is so amazing. I have to do something with it.
Yeah,
you know, and
I hear this story from you, not the first time. It always gives me goosebump in my skin.
I say, if you have that, then it's true what I say, you know, it's the right thing.
What about you also had a Hashimoto condition, a thyroid condition at the time, haven't you?
Yeah. So I went on with my life after feeling completely healed, you know, and I said to myself, well, I have Hashimoto. For 12 years, I take L-Troxine, you know, pills every morning. Back then, I tried to do yoga and change my foods, but nothing helped me to get over the situation. So I said to myself, well, I kind of recognize the conflict that I had 12 years ago, and it is solved so I can get rid of the pills and heal the Hashimoto also. So I went to the doctor that the family doctor that helped me with the cancer. She gave me the ultrasounds and agreed to follow me to follow the process with me.
Escort you, yeah.
So I asked her, well, I want to do this now. And she said, no way, this is not like the cancer. This is something, well, your endocrine gland is not functioning anymore. It will not come back to life, you know, it's because of the pills and it's a long process. And I said, well, I can always go back to the pills, but I'm willing to go for it, to try and see if it's true, you know? Okay. So I decided to go alone with the process. Surprising.
The medication, that's what you mean.
Yeah, to stop the medication, but not immediately, of course. I did it slowly, day by day, little by little. It took me like, I think 3 months to get rid of the pills and to go to zero. And I think it took around half a year that the glade was going up, TSH was going up, a little going down, was getting a little crazy. But I always saw improvement, you know? And after around half a year, I went to normal or almost normal. And I see that the glade is actually functioning back again, you know. And now it's been, I think, 2.5 years, even 3 years that I take no pills and I feel great. And Hashimoto is gone. Right. So this is great. And I will not go into it, but I have stories about, then I started to try it at home, you know, on my cat and with my children. And now I actually live my life according to the GNM. I'm not afraid of life anymore and challenges and even kind of sickness situations, because I know the processes and I trust the processes. And this is how I live now.
Very, very interesting. Okay, and do you have any final words to summarize this interview and the experience you are describing?
Yes, so I want to first start with two major insights that I can share. One is that GNM and understanding the process can very much help taking the fear out or down, less fear, because you have answers, you know the process, you can get prepared to what is coming. So this is one very important thing, because people are very afraid when they hear cancer, you know, so it can help in that. And the other insight is that it surprised me also, but I take it now, you know, it's amazing, I think, that it's kind of like God told me, God tells you that you took the right path, the right decision. Because if I left home and went for another way of living, another path, and I got breast cancer and it's the healing process, it actually says that I made the right decision for me. So it's very helpful in decision making. I look at the processes in my body and I can understand if I'm doing the right choices for me. As a spirit, as a person, and so on. So it's very powerful. This is the two insights I want to share. And few last words that I want to take the GNM to a wider place of let's say the world. Yeah, when I use the word God, I mean it can be said in other words, the universe, the creation, the one field, the one quantum field, you know. It's not about religion or religious stuff. It's about the universe itself and how it works and the big power that we are all part of. We are one big collective body. And as you said before, Gideon, and I really agree with it, the GNM is, for my opinion and understanding now after a few years and practice, it's not only about medicine and healing. It's about healing the universe. It's the concept of the universe. The universe have conflicts, and through the conflicts, it resolves and evolves spiritually, you know, each person, but also because we are a collective body, then if we develop ourselves, then we develop the whole collective body. GNM is one of the greatest, let's say, gates to go to a world, to get to a world with no diseases, with no fear, and heal the world, which is what I believe we are doing together. And this global GNM conference is a major step toward healing the world. So I'm again very happy to be here, and very proud that we have come to this.
Great. Love it. So I thank you, Yaara, as well as Dr. Hammer for GNM and Global GNM for this birthday party. Thank you all, and thank you for this interesting and inspiring story and thoughts that you shared with us.
Thank you very much for letting me do it and helping me do it. I really appreciate it.
So, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Great time.